Chapter 4841, A Stronger Formation is Needed. Using the strongest Dao Heart World as the core and 6 slightly weaker Dao Heart Worlds as foundation, 7 in total, the 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation's power became immense, forcefully suppressing the primordial savage fiend. The fiend howled in fury yet could not break free, its resistance was feeble. From its hate-filled eyes, Lin Muyu could see a trace of panic. He understood why he had located its fatal weakness. It did not know how many years it had been trapped in this hall, and over that vast void, it had left behind countless drops of its own essence blood. These were hidden in the void like spare blood reserves. As long as they existed, it could nearly regenerate endlessly and was incredibly hard to kill. This was its source of confidence. Trying to fight a war of attrition with him might have sounded nice in theory, but reality was cruel. Even if he had never discovered the blood, he would still be the one standing at the end. It would simply have taken much longer. Now, with multiple shattered void arrays working together, the entire hall's space twisted, dragging out the essence blood and erasing it. The fiend's recovery began to slow. Gradually, it could no longer heal as fast as it was being injured. Its wounds deepened and multiplied. This thing's defense is frightening. Even without those blood reserves, I would still have to grind it down slowly. Unfortunately, my 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation can currently hold only 7 worlds at once. If I add more, the formation itself might collapse. It seems I must strengthen not only my body and soul, but also my formations. The 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation is not yet perfect, there is room for improvement. Comprehending flaws in the midst of battle and refining techniques on that basis was far more effective than dry contemplation. Studying the array before him, Lin Muyu sensed that the 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation had reached its limit. The space left for upgrades was small, and even successful improvements would offer only minor gains. This formation is strange. It feels like something I knew long ago and only remembered upon reaching a certain realm, then simply used it. Improving it will not be easy. At its absolute limit, it can hold 10 worlds. To make it stronger, I would have to arrange multiple 9 Heaven Slaughter Formations and create a formation cluster. I have done that before, with excellent results. Boosting power dozens of times should be possible, but even then, the cluster's foundation is still the 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation. If the root is limited, the cluster will have its own ceiling. The best solution is to create a new, stronger formation, one whose essence is not simply maximum killing power, but absolute stability. His thoughts turned sharp. He knew exactly what he needed. He had to forge a new grand array that pursued extreme stability along with respectable offensive strength. Once the array was stable enough, it could hold more Dao Heart Worlds. The more worlds it held, the more its power would grow, its killing strength would naturally follow. Suddenly, an idea struck him. If it could work like the word God, heaven and earth and the little tree, that would be ideal. The two support each other. The stronger the tree, the stronger the realm, and the stronger the realm, the stronger the tree. If my formation gained stability with every added Dao Heart World, and the worlds in turn made the formation more solid, then theoretically it could hold infinite Dao Heart Worlds. The array would become infinitely stable, and its power would have no upper limit. Yes, that is the goal. Mutual reinforcement, a positive cycle. He now fully understood the kind of formation he wished to build. No matter how stable a grand array might be, it always had a maximum capacity for Dao Heart Worlds. Only if the worlds themselves strengthened the array could that limit be removed. The more Dao Heart Worlds there were, the more stable the formation would become, allowing it to hold infinitely many worlds. This was his true target. Such an array would be difficult to create, but in theory it was possible, and he believed he could achieve it. Hard or not, it deserves serious study. This might be the greatest breakthrough in my formation Dao. Formation Dao should be like this, boundless, limitless. How can it tolerate being confined? But before that, the 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation will have to do for these creatures. I will not sit in meditation. I will comprehend in battle and use these fiends as test subjects. In his eyes, the primordial savage fiends were no longer terrifying enemies, but ideal experimental material. He would use these stubbornly hard-to-kill beings to test and verify his new grand array. He realized he was the type who wanted everything, greedy for every advantage, but so what? At this level, was that not exactly how he should be? If he sought nothing at all, there would have been no reason to cultivate to this point. The 9 Heaven Slaughter Formation slowly ground the fiend to death while he watched the entire process, drawing insights into formations from live combat. When the fiend finally perished, the hall's void shattered with a boom. From the depths of the hall flew a pure white bead, which stopped before him. It turned into mist, surrounded him, and seeped into his body, then into his soul. He did not resist. He knew this was the hall's reward. Wounds ripped open all over his body, and a searing pain tore through his soul as if both were about to collapse. Even someone long accustomed to pain furrowed his brow. It was far from pleasant. Wounds opened and healed in rapid succession, and the same happened within his soul. Amid the agony, his body and soul began to grow rapidly. The speed was astonishing, unlike anything he had ever experienced. It felt as though his limits were being smashed again and again, driven higher without pause. If he failed to endure it, both body and soul would crumble on the spot. The greater the benefit, the greater the price. To gain enough, one had to be able to bear enough. After a brief but intense period, the pain began to recede, replaced by an indescribable sense of comfort. The torment faded, and a flood of power surged forth from the deepest parts of his body and soul. This single, nameless bead surpassed all previous rewards. Just one had doubled his body and soul. Joy flickered in his eyes. One little bead equals the rewards of the past 10 halls. In that case, if I clear this set of 10, my body and soul can be strengthened tenfold. As expected, just as I guessed, 9 Heaven's Divine Lord has calculated everything. If I follow his plan, my body and soul will be taken care of. He understood why the Divine Lord had arranged things this way. If such a bead had been given at the very beginning, his foundation would not have been strong enough to withstand it, he would have died outright. By traversing the first 70 halls, his body and soul had already grown several times stronger, enough to survive the bead's violent changes. From the start of his cultivation until this reward, his body and soul had grown slowly and steadily, like a frog in warm water. Only now had his foundation become fully solid, allowing this bead to catapult his strength to the skies. And this was likely only the beginning. From here on, his body and soul would soar even higher, straight into the 9th heaven. Only then would he be able to carry a vast number of Tao Heart worlds. As his body and soul strengthened, his Tao Heart also benefited. His radiance shone brighter, and more worlds surfaced within it. Chuckling softly, Lin Muyu stepped out of the hall, set foot once more on the divine road, and walked toward the next. Chapter 4842, Formation at a Thought. Stepping through each divine hall, comprehending grand formations, strengthening body and soul, evolving Tao Heart worlds. Lin Muyu walked and pondered along the divine road. This path became his road of communion with the heavens. His realm gradually rose. He was no longer confined to a single heaven and earth, nor to the forbidden zone of life, nor even to the divine road and its halls. A sense of transcendence stirred within him. Once, he had sought to transcend the great world, then the realms, and finally to stand above all heavens and earth. Step by step, to this very moment, he began to surpass even the forbidden zone of life. The 9 Heavens Slaughter formation remained powerful. He refined it to its limit and made it capable of housing 10 Tao Heart worlds. With this as his reliance, he carved his way through the 75th Divine Hall. From the 76th Hall onward, the fiends grew stronger. Even with 10 Tao Heart worlds, the 9 Heavens Slaughter formation no longer sufficed, and he began to arrange formation clusters. With the power of these clusters, he managed to pass the 78th Divine Hall. In the 79th Hall, the primordial savage fiend was stronger still. A cluster of 109 Heaven Slaughter formations could only trap it could not kill it. At that point, he used his Tao Heart to summon formation spirits. 109 Heaven Slaughter formations produced 100 spirits, which then fused into one, further boosting the cluster's power and pushing the slaughter array's lethality to its true limit. After an entire year of grinding combat, he finally wore down and killed the fiend of the 79th Hall. The 80th Hall would mark the end of this stage, and its fiend would be even stronger. He knew clearly that relying on the 9 Heaven Slaughter formation alone would no longer be enough. So this stage of trials demands that I comprehend an even stronger formation. There must be more than one path forward, but the road laid out by 9 Heaven's Divine Lord should be the easiest to walk. There were surely other ways to kill the fiends, but those paths had clearly been restricted. The Divine Lord's purpose was obvious: to force him to grasp stronger formations and block all other avenues, leaving only one path open. So be it, let us see what kind of formation I can derive. He stood before the 80th Hall and peered through the array at the fiend inside. It was indeed stronger, its shape still half dragon, half flood dragon, outwardly little changed but at least twice as powerful as the one in the last hall. Lin Moyu confirmed that the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation would not be enough, then stepped back some distance and sat cross-legged to comprehend. From the 71st to the 80th hall, he had never stopped refining his understanding of formations. His thoughts were already close to completion, needing only the final step. He used the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation as his base, comprehending atop it. He did not alter the formation itself, instead, he extracted and referenced its offensive might. The Nine Heavens Slaughter formation's killing power was strong enough, but the array was too extreme, focused solely on offense, not stability. Its limit was 10 Dao hard worlds. Even with a cluster of 100 such formations, its foundation remained the same, and the cluster's overall power increased only 2 to 3-fold. Therefore, the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation was ultimately inadequate, though that did not stop him from harvesting its essence, preserving its lethal nature. Building on that, he created a new grand array with no inherent functions and named it the Infinite Divine Formation. This formation had 2 defining traits. First, fusion with Dao hard worlds. Named Infinite, because it could theoretically fuse with an unlimited number of Dao hard worlds, using them all as formation foundations. The more worlds it absorbed, the more stable it became. Second, fusion with other formations, using them as cores. Choosing formations themselves as array cores was something he arrived at only after weighing many possibilities. Any formation to be fused would have to be modified. He selected the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation, stripped out its killing component, and merged that into the Infinite Divine Formation, then used the Infinite Formation's stability to integrate countless Dao hard worlds, turning it into the Infinite Slaughter Formation. With those 2 traits, the Infinite Divine Formation possessed infinite potential. If any particular effect was needed, he could merge in the corresponding array and obtain that ability. At present, I have 1,000 Dao hard worlds. If I fuse them all into the Infinite Divine Formation and then add the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation to turn it into the Infinite Slaughter Formation, that should be enough to obliterate the fiend in the 80th hall. And not only that one, likely the next 10 halls as well. As long as there were enough Dao hard worlds, the Infinite Formation could grow indefinitely. As his body and soul continued to strengthen, the number of worlds would multiply. Thus, a positive cycle emerged. The more Dao hard worlds, the more stable the Infinite Formation, and the stronger any formation serving as its core. Lin Moyu tapped his finger lightly, and an Infinite Divine Formation emerged at once. In an instant, an array was formed, no runes, only his will. This formation is my own creation. It responds to a single thought, no rune drawing required. In that light, the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation truly is not mine. For some reason, I simply came to possess it. The reason must be tied to Nine Heavens Divine Lord. I have a feeling the answer will not remain hidden much longer. The Infinite Divine Formation itself is still incomplete. I borrowed the killing essence of the Nine Heavens Slaughter formation, but since that array is not my creation, it cannot be formed with a single thought. From here on, I still need to comprehend a slaughter formation that truly belongs to me. If this feeling is right, that formation must arise from the Dao hard worlds themselves. His eyes opened slowly, gaze sweeping the void. So, one bout of formation comprehension, and another 1,000 years have passed. Time really is cheap. Now that the formation is ready, it is time to test it in the hall. Confident in his Infinite Divine Formation, he believed that something worthy of the name, Infinite, naturally held infinite possibilities. Slaying a fiend was just one of them, and not a difficult one. He stepped into the Divine Hall. A shrill roar tore through his soul, shaking his spirit. Back at the 71st hall, this would have affected his soul or even made him lose control for a time. At the very beginning of this sequence, such a soul-shaking roar would have dealt him heavy damage. Now, it merely felt slightly uncomfortable. With a single thought, the Infinite Divine Formation appeared. 1,000 Dao hard worlds unfolded at once in the hall's void. The fiend's attacks crashed down in the next instant, slamming into the formation. It only trembled lightly and absorbed everything. Anchored by 1,000 Dao hard worlds, it was unbreakable. Even the fiend could not smash it. The Infinite Divine Formation had no special defensive functions, yet it could still be used as a shield. Slaughter Formation, merge. His quiet command fell. The Nine Heavens Slaughter Formation fused into the array as its core. Killing intent surged. The 1,000 worlds erupted with world force all at once, and the Infinite Slaughter Formation took shape. A terrifying formation spirit emerged from within, its giant palm descending. Within its hand, Countless bolts of lightning roared, sweeping the void in a single instant. In that sea of lightning, the mighty fiend was shattered, its body annihilated, its remains devoured by thunder. Impressive. Lin Muyu could not help but acknowledge that the power of his infinite divine formation far exceeded expectations. Chapter 4843, Racing Against Time. Stepping off the divine road, he arrived before the 81st divine hall. From past experience, this hall would surely change again, though he did not yet know how. Faintly, Lin Muyu even felt a trace of anticipation. Out of a total of 99 halls, he had already cleared 80%. The remaining halls would be harder, but he was confident he could pass them all. The number of his Dao Heart worlds had already reached 1,500. His body and soul once more felt faint pressure, so Lin Muyu held back and did not continue evolving more. His body and soul could still grow, he had seen 1,000,000 worlds before, so his mere 1,500 were nothing worth mentioning. At the gate of the 81st hall, Lin Muyu stopped. There is no ceiling formation. Without a ceiling formation, there was no primordial savage fiend inside, and thus no battle awaiting him. Even so, he could clearly sense a very powerful array operating within the hall. Stepping inside, Lin Muyu saw a sky full of stars, countless points of light hanging in the void. Truly beautiful, a perfect Dao heart. He recognized that this patch of void was, in fact, a single Dao heart. Every star was a Dao heart world, yet these were not real, they had been evolved from a grand formation. The one who arranged this array was surely Nine Heaven's Divine Lord. By this method, the Divine Lord was showing him what a perfect Dao heart should look like. Only after Lin Muyu entered did the array truly begin to operate. Countless stars flickered and then vanished, leaving only a small portion still shining, precisely 3,000. 3,000. That number is meaningful. 3,000 stars, each evolving a Dao heart world. Lin Muyu understood the Divine Lord's intent. He was being told to use his Dao heart worlds to fill the stars, each of his worlds would fill a single star. And 3,000 Dao heart worlds should be close to his current limit, perhaps even slightly beyond it. The Divine Lord knew exactly how strong his body and soul were and where his limit lay. He clearly intended to use this method to push Lin Muyu's Dao heart worlds to the edge of that limit. Originally, Lin Muyu had not wanted to go that far, he preferred to leave some margin. But with Nine Heaven's Divine Lord setting this request, he could only comply. Dao heart radiance burst from his body, within which countless worlds rose and fell, some quickly solidifying. Within those evolving worlds, there were rules, great Daos, paths for cultivation and ascension. The Dao heart worlds transformed from illusory to real, all at a single thought. As he evolved them, Lin Muyu sent each existing world into a star. The void trembled and the array swayed, and suddenly he realized that some of his Dao heart worlds could not merge into the stars. Out of his 1,500 worlds, half successfully filled stars, causing them to shine with deep, unfathomable light. But several hundred were rejected and failed to fit. Studying these failed worlds, he swiftly identified the cause. So my Dao heart worlds are not strong enough. All those that failed to merge were ones he had only recently evolved. They were too weak, lacking rules, not yet suitable for cultivation. The grand array in the hall demanded extremely high standards from any Dao heart world it accepted. Fortunately, these weak worlds held few living beings. With a thought, he transferred those sparse populations into other, stronger worlds, then allowed the inferior Dao heart worlds to vanish into nothing. If they were not strong enough, there was no point in keeping them, he would simply evolve new ones. He acted cleanly, without hesitation. Discarding all the weak worlds and evolving stronger ones would indeed cost him time, and stronger worlds would place far more pressure on his body and soul for the same number. But he knew this was necessary. World after world took shape, perfected and solidified. Everything in the Dao heart worlds lay in his hands. At a thought, he could let 1,000,000 years pass within a world, allowing life to flourish and evolve, or he could destroy a world entirely and erase all existence. Every aspect of the Dao heart worlds moved with his will. Once each world was perfectly evolved, he sent it into a waiting star. 3,000 stars were gradually filled and lit up with brilliant radiance. The overlapping colors were dazzling beyond words, and the entire hall was suffused with the power of heaven and earth. Lin Muyu felt that once a Dao heart world was fully solidified, it was nearly indistinguishable from a normal world. What he was doing was akin to opening up worlds. Over 100 years, 2,900 stars were lit, leaving only the last 100 unfilled. At this point, he could sense his body and soul pressed to their limit, barely able to bear the existing load. If he failed to evolve enough worlds, the array would not be filled and he could not pass this hall. My body and soul should still be able to get a bit stronger. Even if I go beyond some limits, I should not collapse instantly. Even if I do collapse, it will not be immediate. There will be a process, and if I can fill the formation and obtain the reward before my body and soul shatter, the reward might strengthen them enough to carry more worlds. This was a gamble, and he knew he had no choice. The result would be success or failure, but he could still control the process. Condensing the final 100 Dao Heart worlds required precision. Solidifying them was not difficult. The problem was that going beyond his limit meant his body and soul were bound to break. That collapse would not be instant. There would be a window, and that window was his opportunity. Evolving the worlds one by one would never work. A brief calculation gave him the answer. He had to evolve all 100 at once. Only then could the process be compressed to the shortest possible span, making it as safe as it could be. He first prepared 100 illusory Dao Heart worlds. No matter how many illusory worlds there were, they exerted no pressure on him. He carefully laid out rules and great Daos within each one, then began solidifying them all at once. A dull grunt escaped him as a massive pressure crashed down on both body and soul, and even his consciousness wavered. With a low shout, he forcibly cleared his mind. The 100 worlds moved from illusion to reality together, pushing his body and soul past their limit. Cracks split his flesh, and the same fissures tore through his soul. This was the unavoidable price of going beyond his limits. All he could do now was focus completely, stay conscious, and solidify the worlds as fast as possible to pass this hall's trial. At the same time, his protective radiance fed back into his body and soul, forcibly holding them together and slowing the rate of collapse. Lin Moyu was racing against time. Every breath was priceless. If he wasted even a single heartbeat, it might mean complete annihilation. He was long since used to death and felt no fear before it, even if this time it was the true end. With death brushing against him, he maintained perfect clarity. His mind was sharper and stronger than ever. His will surged like a blazing obsession, and the speed at which the 100 worlds solidified was terrifying. Dao Heart radiance enveloped him, illuminating the entire hall. Yet even so, his body and soul continued to splinter, as though the rate of collapse might outstrip the rate of solidification. This will not do, I will not make it. In the heart of the formation, he looked toward the grand array in the hall. 2,900 stars glittered, each containing a Dao Heart world. I see. To solidify worlds, I need more than my will, I need theirs. Formation, activate. Chapter 4844, Breaking, then Reforging. Previously, Lin Moyu had already poured 2,900 Dao Heart worlds into the grand array, which granted him a certain degree of control over it. Now that the array was fully activated, those 2,900 worlds erupted with the power of heaven and earth. That power was gathered through the formation and condensed into multicolored divine light that fell upon Lin Moyu. His collapsing body and soul were instantly stabilized. They continued to break apart, but at a rate more than 10 times slower. At the same time, under the shroud of this rainbow light, the remaining 100 worlds solidified far faster. One loss, one gain, it bought him enough time. The 100 worlds solidified in rapid succession. With a sweeping motion of his hand, Lin Moyu sent them all into the grand array, filling the last 100 stars. 3,000 stars were now complete, and the array was whole. The vanished starry firmament reappeared once more. Looking into the void, he saw that the 3,000 filled stars interlinked with each other, forming an array clearly distinct from the surrounding region. Using a grand array to evolve a Dao Heart? No, that is wrong. I am seeing it incorrectly. This is using the Dao Heart to evolve a grand array. What I am seeing is an authentic Dao Heart. So the Dao Heart can be used like this. A sense of sudden clarity washed over him. He finally understood. It was not the array mimicking a Dao Heart, but a grand formation laid out inside the Dao Heart. The Dao Heart worlds were joined together in the form of a great array, making the Dao Heart itself more stable. In turn, this fed back into the worlds, strengthening each of them. That then influenced his body and soul, making his own power mightier and the formations he laid even more terrifying. As this 9 heavens Divine Lord's inheritance, it felt very much like the Divine Lord had released a piece of true inheritance, revealing to him the proper way to use a Dao Heart. The starry field lingered only for a moment before vanishing again, and all 3,000 worlds returned to his body and soul. With them came a beam of divine light. It descended in unison with the worlds, enveloping him. His body and soul began to strengthen once more. First, their collapse accelerated. But when they neared total disintegration, they suddenly began rapidly recovering. Breaking, then reforging, emerging anew like a butterfly from its cocoon. Lin Moyu had gone through rebirth countless times. Life and death had long since become a trivial matter to him, and each previous rebirth had required both body and soul to be utterly shattered before returning, in fact far more extreme than what he was experiencing now. Yet paradoxically, this time the effect far surpassed all those past rebirths. As he broke and reformed, the power of the Hall seeped into every inch, every fragment of his body and soul, as though giving them a complete baptism and pushing them to undergo a fresh qualitative change. The baptism was anything but pleasant. The agony that came from the deepest depths of the soul would have made a peak Hongmeng Supreme howl in torment. Lin Moyu, however, merely grunted a few times and endured it. He had simply died too many times to be bothered. When his body and soul finally finished this process of breaking and reforging, they shone with dazzling radiance. Immense power coursed through him like a surging river. Shock flickered in his gaze as he muttered to himself, no wonder Nine Heaven's divine lord could bear 1,000,000 worlds. To think a body and soul could be tempered to this degree. In this journey through the halls, the first 70 each boosted his physical body by 10% not cumulatively, but by 10% according to his original base. Over 70 halls, his body and soul had grown sevenfold, placing him beyond the limit of a Hongmeng Supreme and touching a new threshold. To others, even that was already unthinkable. Yet those 70 halls and that sevenfold increase had only laid the groundwork for what was to come. Without it, his body and soul would never have borne the next leaps in strength. From the 71st hall onward, each hall had doubled his body and soul. And this doubling was based on his already sevenfold strengthened state. Each new doubling equaled the total of that previous sevenfold increase. After 10 such halls, his body and soul had grown 10 times stronger again, reaching a frightening level. He was now in no way inferior even to the weaker primordial savage fiends, he only lagged slightly behind the terrifying ones encountered toward the end. Even so, he had yet to truly step into a higher level, and at times he had almost suspected that the next realm did not exist at all. Unexpectedly, that too had only been a foundation this time, the foundation for his current rebirth. Without those earlier steps, he could not have borne 3,000 Dao hard worlds or passed this hall's trial, and thus could never have accomplished this breaking and reforging. Now, his body and soul had once again increased tenfold atop their previous base. A tenfold increase enough for me to carry over 10,000 Dao hard worlds. Yet even now, I have still not touched the next realm. What exactly is that step beyond a Hongmeng Supreme? Why is the gap so vast? Nine Heaven's divine lord uses Hongmeng Supremes as divine servants, but does a being that powerful really need such followers? He still had no idea how strong the divine lord truly was. Even so, his current self could easily erase a Hongmeng Supreme. What use was such a so-called divine servant? Forget it, I have not reached that height myself, why bother thinking about it? Once I walk through all 99 halls, perhaps the mystery will naturally unravel. I wonder what the next hall's reward will be. Judging from prior experience, it will likely be another boost to body and soul. Could it be another tenfold increase? Beyond that tenfold strengthening, there was something even more important. Lin Moyu sensed that his body and soul had undergone a qualitative transformation. It was no longer a mere question of stronger or weaker, he had stepped into another tier of existence altogether. Compared with ordinary beings, the difference now lay at the very level of life itself, not something that could be described with simple measures of power. Passing along the divine road, he came before the 82nd hall. Just like the previous one, it was again a grand array evolved from a Dao heart. Stars appeared within the array and then faded, leaving 12,000 empty positions, 12,000 Dao heart worlds needing to be filled by Lin Moyu. He looked at the void with an, as expected, expression. So it really is like this. My limit for bearing Dao heart worlds should be between 10,000 and 11,000, yet I am being asked to evolve and solidify 12,000. No fancy tricks, just a straightforward push beyond my limit. I have no choice but to do it, this is an open scheme. Nine Heaven's divine lord's design made it clear, there was no road of retreat for him. Thanks to his previous experience, even though he now had to exceed his limit by a full 1,000 worlds, he already had a way to cope. He had even predicted what he would go through. Body and soul shattering would be unavoidable. Yet once the formation was filled, the hall's reward would surely restore him to peak condition and likely trigger another breaking and reforming. Another tenfold strengthening of body and soul was virtually guaranteed. He had already grasped the Divine Lord's pattern. In that case, these 10 halls can make my body and soul 100 times stronger. Who knows what state I will be in by then? And when I pass these 10 halls, how will the final 9 be arranged? Will it be more primordial savage fiends? Or even more Tao hard worlds? 9 Heaven's Divine Lord still has not appeared. I wonder when he will finally show himself. Evolving and solidifying 10,000 worlds would take considerable time, and Lin Muyu was in no hurry. He proceeded step by step, while also studying this Tao heart formation in detail, drawing out its essence and making it his own. Chapter 4845, The Primordial Savage King. Unfearing of death, unafraid of annihilation. Life and death were like passing clouds to him. As long as he willed something, it would be done. Clearing the 82nd Divine Hall no longer posed any pressure to Lin Muyu. What did it matter if he exceeded his own carrying capacity? What did it matter if both body and soul shattered? He no longer cared. Having understood 9 Heaven's Divine Lord's intent and tested it for himself, he cast aside all scruples and let himself act freely. At a stunning pace, he evolved and solidified Tao hard worlds. Worlds of every shape and variety were born with a thought. There was no limit to the types of worlds or the number of living beings within, they simply needed to be powerful enough. In some Tao hard worlds, there was only a single living being. In others, the inhabitants were so tiny they could not be seen, yet they were terrifyingly strong. Some Tao hard worlds were themselves a single living being. As long as there were infinite thoughts, there would be infinite living beings. When imagination failed, fragments of consciousness would appear in dreams, and those fragments, merging into countless forms, could all take shape as Tao hard worlds. Lin Muyu's thoughts were without end, and thus his Tao hard worlds were limitless. One divine hall after another fell behind him. Each one forced him through another cycle of breaking and reforging, like an endless series of qualitative transformations. Each time, his body and soul increased tenfold. By the time he stepped out of the 90th Divine Hall, his body and soul had grown 100-fold again, and the number of Tao hard worlds he could bear had surpassed 100,000. Still far from the Divine Lord's million worlds, but compared to his former self, the difference was immense. 100,000 worlds were arranged within his Tao heart in a peculiar pattern, forming a massive array. Drawing on the essence of the hall's formations, his own understanding of arrays, and the infinite divine formation, Lin Muyu created a Tao heart grand array uniquely his own. This array within his Tao heart resembled the infinite divine formation, filling every corner of his Tao heart and making it utterly unbreakable. When he arrived before the 91st hall, his eyes flashed as he swept his gaze across it. There is no ceiling formation. Looks like there will be no fighting here. There is no formation in the hall, but there is something else. He strolled inside. Within the hall stood a giant stele like a mountain, covered in intricate patterns that seemed to depict a peerless figure standing between heaven and earth. Unfortunately, the carving was incomplete and hard to make out clearly. Even so, Lin Muyu faintly saw that the weapon in that supreme figure's hand looked somewhat similar to the catastrophic scepter. It seems the truth is about to be revealed. Mysteries had long shrouded the catastrophic scepter, sealed memories and locked away power. Judging from his current realm, it felt like only 9 Heaven's Divine Lord would have the ability to arrange such seals. Not the spirit of the Divine Servant Hall, not the shadow behind the wall of heaven and earth, not even the system. It was doubtful that any of them could manage it. That alone was enough to infer that the catastrophic scepter must have some connection to the Divine Lord. Suddenly, the stele shone, its light filling the hall. A crisp laugh rang out, and a figure appeared upon the stone. The silhouette solidified from illusion into a girl of 11 or 12, adorably cute. She looked as though she had just woken up and yawned. "I have been waiting who knows how many years, you finally came." Her tone was somewhat similar to Little Mist's. Lin Muyu could tell she was not a living being but a spirit, likely a tool spirit. He guessed she held a role similar to the spirit of the Divine Servant Hall, a spirit of this Divine Hall. Hearing her words, he could not help but think, from what she said, it sounds like she has been waiting for me. The girl vanished from the stele and appeared before him in an instant. She was only about half his height, and standing on the floor she could only see his chest. She tilted her head up. "I am not that guy from the Divine Servant Hall. This girl is the spirit of the Nine Heavens Divine Hall, way stronger than that one. Lin Moyu smiled and asked, "My name is Lin Moyu. What should I call you?" No matter what she was, spirit or otherwise, her appearance and tone told him exactly how to talk with her, no need to be overly formal. The girl said, "Just call me a Jew. That is the name the Divine Lord gave me." When she mentioned Nine Heavens Divine Lord, a Jew's face showed a hint of pride. Lin Moyu asked, "Has a Jew been waiting for me?" "Yes, I do not even know how many years I have been waiting. I have slept so many times, wake up, then sleep again, then wake up again, and still you did not come. But the Divine Lord said you would definitely arrive someday, and I trust him, so I just kept waiting." He chuckled. Sleeping, a few times, in her case probably meant hundreds of millions of years. "What have you been waiting for me to do?" he asked. "To break my seal, of course. The Divine Lord said that when you arrived, you could release my seal." Lin Moyu paused. "How is this seal to be broken?" A Jew pointed at the steel. "See this? There is a formation inside it. You need to comprehend that formation, then enter the steel's inner space and reinforce the seal within. That will chew the seal on me." So simple. To him, comprehending a formation like this should not be difficult. A Jew added, "Do not assume it is simple. The formation inside this steel was personally laid by the Divine Lord, and it seals a very powerful primordial savage king. When you go in to reinforce the seal, it will give you a lot of trouble. But with a Jew here, I guarantee your life will not be in danger." "I have run into a few primordial savage fiends before," Lin Moyu said. "I have suppressed and slain all of them. What is different about the one inside?" "Do not compare those things to this one," a Jew replied. "Primordial savage kings are different. They are very hard to kill and can only be sealed." "I would like to hear the details," Lin Moyu said. "Fine, I will tell you. These primordial savage fiends come in 4 levels. The weakest are the lower fiends. Stronger than those are the upper fiends. Stronger still, that is the primordial savage kings. Besides those, there is also..." She suddenly slapped her forehead. "That is strange. Why cannot I remember? I know there is another one, why is that?" From her expression, Lin Moyu understood. This part of her memory had almost certainly been sealed by Nine Heavens Divine Lord, which was why she could not recall it. He quickly said, "If you cannot remember, do not force it. It is only a name, it does not matter." A Jew tapped her head a few more times. "You are right, it is only a name. Anyway, there is something even stronger than the primordial savage king. This steel is called the Nine Heavens Tao Heart Steel. The Divine Lord used his Tao Heart worlds to refine it. It contains its own space, where a primordial savage king is sealed. But the seal must be reinforced from time to time. In the past, I always did it myself. Now that you are here, it is your turn." After her explanation, it became clear that every time she woke up, she would reinforce the seal. From the 91st to the 99th Divine Hall, there were 9 Nine Heavens Tao Heart Stells in total, each sealing 1 primordial savage king. These kings were incredibly difficult to kill. Lin Moyu's task was simply to strengthen the seals so they could not escape. Still, doubt lingered in his mind. Are primordial savage kings truly impossible to kill? "Not impossible, just extremely hard," a Jew said with a wink, as though she wanted to say more, but ultimately kept quiet. Lin Moyu felt he understood something and asked, "What if I do kill them?" A Jew shook her head and blinked again, giving him a meaningful look. Chapter 4846, A Small Trap. Chapter 4846, A Small Trap. In Lin Moyu's eyes, there was no such thing as an unkillable foe, only those that were easy to kill and those that were difficult. The primordial savage kings were surely powerful and very hard to slaughter, but truly unkillable. He did not believe it. Once, the wild beasts had also been deemed impossible to kill, yet they were still massacred by the countless. The key was simply finding the right method. A Jew activated the Nine Heavens Tao Heart Steel and opened a passage for Lin Moyu to enter. Inside, the steel contained its own space. As soon as Lin Moyu stepped in, he saw 100 mighty Tao Heart worlds coiled in the void, their interwoven connections forming a vast net that sealed a primordial savage king at its center. The king's form shifted constantly, wavering between illusion and reality, sometimes like a dragon, sometimes a beast, sometimes mere mist. It was not sleeping. A single massive eye appeared and locked on Lin Moyu. "So you finally came." Curiosity flickered in Lin Moyu's gaze. The words were almost the same as a Jew's. It felt as though this king had known he was coming. You knew I would come. The single eye became a pair, filled with savage ferocity. Of course, how could that old dog of 9 heavens ever let us go so easily? The hatred in its voice was unmistakable. It was a strange kind of hatred, as though it had been born with them, like the inexplicable loathing Lin Muyu himself had felt upon first seeing any primordial savage fiend, the urge to destroy them on sight. It seemed that when they looked at him, they felt exactly the same way. Between the primordial savage and 9 heavens divine lord, there was clearly an innate, irreconcilable enmity. You have been sealed here for endless ages, Lin Muyu said calmly. Do you have anything to say before you die? The king's eyes multiplied into hundreds, and its low laughter thundered like storm clouds. Even that old dog of 9 heavens could not kill us. You think you can? Yes, Lin Muyu replied. Just me. The king laughed even more wildly. You cannot kill us. My lord will return someday. My lord will slay that old dog of 9 heavens and you will not escape either. The lord he speaks of must be the one whose name a Jew could not say, Lin Muyu thought. So these primordial savage kings are not the true final enemies. Their lord is the real threat. No matter. First, kill these kings. When 9 heavens divine lord appears, all mysteries will be resolved. He flew into the grand array of interwoven Tao heart worlds. The primordial savage king instantly turned into dense mist, unleashing countless attacks at once. At a single thought, Lin Muyu summoned the infinite divine formation. It erupted into being, a thought-born array containing 10,000 Tao heart worlds, rising like an immense wall before him. The king's strikes hammered the formation, making it thunder and shake, but they could not break it. What formation is this? The mist roared in shock. A formation that can butcher you, Lin Muyu said with a light smile. His will moved, and the infinite divine formation shifted into the infinite slaughter formation. 10,000 Tao heart worlds roared in unison. Boundless killing intent surged like a storm, and a colossal formation spirit emerged. Lightning coiled in its palm as it blew out a wind of annihilation that gnawed at bones and souls alike, scattering the mist in an instant. The primordial savage king shrieked in the lightning. Its form warped again and again, condensing and dispersing as it struggled desperately within the storm. Impossible. Even that old dog of 9 heavens could not kill us. How can you kill me? Its screams were filled with terror and disbelief. Lin Muyu merely shook his head and spoke almost to himself. Primordial savage kings are only hard to kill. With 9 heavens divine lord's abilities, do you really think he could not kill you? He merely chose not to. With just 100 Tao heart worlds, he sealed you here for countless years. And you say he could not kill you? How laughable. He was certain the divine lord definitely had the power to destroy them, he had simply chosen to leave them alive. Most likely, they had been set aside as a dish prepared especially for Lin Muyu. Had he obeyed a Jew and refrained from killing, he would have fallen right into that trap. Hard to kill, yes, but not unkillable. Under the infinite slaughter formation, the king was gradually worn down. At most, a single day would be enough to crush it completely. Impossible, impossible, you cannot kill this king. It howled without end, but Lin Muyu could hear that its bravado was hollow. A being that had lived for endless ages, in truth, clung desperately to life. Lin Muyu did not bother arguing. Killing it was enough. There was no need for more words. Whatever riddles lingered in his mind would naturally be answered once he met the divine lord. After one day, the primordial savage king was finally forced to its end by the infinite slaughter formation. Lin Muyu vanished from within the array and reappeared in the hall. The 9 heavens Tao heart steel turned into a stream of light and sank into his body, and a wave of indescribable comfort washed over him. The sensation was unlike anything before. His soul and body underwent another baptism and began to strengthen again. This time, the strengthening was different from all the previous times. It was gentle, like a trickling brook, continuously nourishing his body and soul. The growth was slow but unending. And the source of it all was the steel, the power that came from the 100 Tao heart worlds within it. These were 9 heavens divine lord's own Tao heart worlds. Together with the steel, they were like an enormous Tao heart source stone, slowly, gently strengthening his body, soul, and even his Tao heart itself. A Jew chuckled. Congratulations, you passed. Thank you, Lin Muyu replied. A Jew pointed ahead. Come with me. She led him out the back of the hall, where the divine road should have been. At least, that was how it had been behind the first 90 halls, but now there was no road. What is going on here? He asked. From this hall onward, the divine road is under my control, a Jew said. If you pass, the road opens. If you fail, there is no road. You killed the primordial savage king sealed in the 9 heavens Dao heart steel just now, so you passed. You received the reward and can now open the divine road to the next hall. Realization clicked into place. So that is why you were winking at me earlier. Stop, stop, stop. A Jew flailed her hands, cutting him off. Do not say that out loud. Cannot be spoken, he asked. She nodded hard. The Divine Lord's doing, exactly as he had guessed. 9 heavens Divine Lord had placed a restriction on her, forbidding her from saying anything directly. If Lin Moyu had not killed the king, whether because he simply obeyed instructions or because he had lacked the strength, he would have failed the trial all the same. Why did he do this? Lin Moyu asked. I do not know, a Jew said, shaking her head. But if the Divine Lord arranged it this way, he must have a reason. So this spirit really was obedient, likely just bored after staying here too long. In the following halls, Lin Moyu asked. They are the same. There are 8 more, a Jew answered. She did not reply directly, but the meaning was clear. Then open the road. I will slaughter my way through them one by one. Hearing that, a Jew looked delighted. All right, I will open the divine road for you. She ran and hopped to the front, tapping lightly with her little hand. A path of glowing radiance appeared out of thin air. Together, they stepped onto the divine road. The instant he set foot on it, Lin Moyu realized that this time, the road had changed dramatically. Chapter 4847, The Divine Lord's Hall. All the divine roads he had walked before served no real function, they were merely ordinary stairways. This time, however, a warm current rose from within the divine road. It did not nourish his body and soul, but streamed straight into his Dao heart. The effect of the 9 heavens Dao heart steel was still ongoing, continuously strengthening his body and soul, while the warmth from the divine road hastened the evolution and solidification of Dao heart worlds. Working together, the two produced astonishing results. World after world emerged within his Dao heart, perfectly matching his ever-growing body and soul. They complemented one another beautifully. A Jew drifted at his side. Feel it, from here on, even the divine road is part of the reward. Why is 9 heavens Divine Lord doing all of this? Lin Moyu asked. I do not know, a Jew replied, shaking her head. He never said. That did not necessarily mean he had truly said nothing, it could just as easily mean that part of her memory had been sealed. Lin Moyu drew out the catastrophic scepter. Have you seen this before, a Jew? She let out a loud cry. How do you have that thing? At that moment, the Hongmeng gem flew out from within the scepter. Oh, you recognize me. It is carved on the 9 heavens Dao heart steel, a Jew said. Hello, I am a Jew. The gem sounded almost disappointed. Hello, I am this. A Jew continued. You look exactly like the one on the steel. I do not know why, the gem replied, shaking slightly. Lin Moyu felt speechless. It seemed both of them had had their memories tampered with, and the only one capable of doing that here was 9 heavens Divine Lord. Until meeting the Divine Lord, this secret would clearly remain locked. This divine road was quite long. Step by step, it took him 3 full days to reach the 92nd divine hall. Unnoticed at first, his body and soul had once more grown more than tenfold. The increase was slow, but constant, and over time its effect far surpassed any single explosive boost. The number of Dao heart worlds had also surpassed 200,000. Inside the 92nd hall, he found another 9 heavens Dao heart steel, no different in appearance from the last. But he knew the primordial savage king sealed within would be stronger. And so what? He would simply slaughter it. A Jew opened the steel. Please, fellow Taoist Lin. She looked genuinely happy, as though seeing victory just ahead. Her greatest burden here had been to regularly reinforce the seals within the stels, leaving her with no freedom and even disturbing her sleep. Once Lin Moyu killed all 9 primordial savage kings, even if she did not gain freedom, at least she could finally sleep soundly. Lin Moyu entered the steel's inner space and wasted no words. He struck immediately. Right now, he wanted only the rewards, strengthening his body and evolving more Dao heart worlds. These primordial savages were merely stepping stones on his path to power. He continued to refine the infinite slaughter formation, increasing the worlds within from 10,000 to 20,000 and greatly amplifying its might. In only half a day, the king was torn to pieces. He felt no pride in this. He knew the gap between himself and 9 heavens Divine Lord was still vast. The Divine Lord had sealed a primordial savage king with only 100 Dao hard worlds. At most, he might need 200 to kill one outright. Yet Lin Muyu required at least 10,000, a tremendous difference. His infinite divine formation was not weaker than the Divine Lord's arrays, the true disparity lay in the strength of their Dao hard worlds. His worlds were still newly formed. To reach their peak, they required enormous time. The other key factor was his body and soul. He believed that, in time, he would be able to slay primordial savage kings with only a few hundred worlds as well. Whatever Nine Heavens' Divine Lord could do, he too would one day accomplish. After passing the 92nd hall and bathing in the reward, a Jew opened the next divine road, and they continued onward. One hall after another, Lin Muyu slaughtered his way through without hindrance. From the moment he entered these halls, this stretch had offered the richest rewards of all his cultivation. He had never grown so quickly. No bottlenecks, no restrictions, no obstacles, only steady, unstoppable advancement. His task was simple: continually strengthen the infinite divine formation and butcher the primordial savage kings. By the time he slew the king in the 99th hall, his number of Dao hard worlds was just shy of 1,000,000. The infinite divine formation now held 100,000 Dao hard worlds. Its power was beyond anything he had seen before. His body and soul seemed to be brushing against their limit. Though their rate of growth had slowed, they still flowed forward like a gentle stream. Finally free, a Jew shouted in excitement. "Why are you so happy?" The Hongmang gem asked, looking puzzled. "You do not understand," she said. "Being able to sleep properly is the best feeling in the world." "What is so good about sleeping?" The gem muttered, even more confused. "It is boring." They were opposites. A Jew longed for sleep, while the gem wanted nothing to do with it. Having walked all 99 halls, what happens next? Lin Muyu asked. "Next, you go up to the Divine Lord's hall," a Jew answered. "But to enter it, you need 1,000,000 Dao hard worlds. Do you have enough?" So above the 99 halls, there is still the Divine Lord's hall, Lin Muyu thought. Of course there is. If there is a Divine Servant hall, there should naturally be a Divine Lord's hall as well. I am still a little short of 1,000,000 worlds, he said to himself. With a bit more time, I will reach it. If the final Divine Road also helps evolve Dao hard worlds, I can save time. If it does not, I will just have to spend a little more. Aloud, he asked, "Is there a Divine Road to the Divine Lord's hall?" "Of course there is," a Jew replied. "Then there is no problem," Lin Muyu said. "I can complete the 1,000,000 worlds on the way." "Good, let us go, I can hardly wait," a Jew cheered. Her duty here lacked only the final step. Once Lin Muyu reached the Divine Lord's hall, her mission would be complete. Even if she gained no freedom then, she could at least sleep in peace. After the 99th hall, a Jew opened the Divine Road. It rose straight up into the clouds, leading to the Divine Lord's hall hidden in the ninefold heavens, its form unseen. Stepping onto the road, Lin Muyu felt the warm current flow into his Dao heart, aiding the evolution of more worlds. This is enough. He would not even need to walk the entire road to finish the 1,000,000. Halfway along, he felt something and glanced back. Below, laid out behind him, were all 99 divine halls at his feet. For a moment, he felt as though he stood at the very summit. The view was breathtaking beauty only visible to one who stood in this place. He remembered a promise. He had once told the Breaking Sky Emperor that he would show him the scenery beyond the forbidden zone of life. Unfortunately, whether in the Divine Servant Hall or here, he could not take out the Breaking Sky Crystal, and the Emperor slumbered within it, giving no response. "Is Nine Heavens' Divine Lord in the Divine Lord's Hall?" he asked. "Of course," a Jew said. "The Divine Lord naturally lives in the Divine Lord's Hall. What is his temperament like?" She thought for a moment. The Divine Lord is easy to talk to. But a Jew always feels, he is a bit lonely. Lonely. The higher one stood, the fewer people there were. At Nine Heavens' Divine Lord's height, there could not be many peers. The Divine Road was very long. He walked for 9 full days before finally glimpsing the Divine Lord's Hall. At that moment, his number of Dao hard worlds reached exactly 1,000,000. His body and soul, too, seemed to have reached their limit and no longer grew any stronger. Chapter 4848. First, see something. With 1,000,000 Dao hard worlds and body and soul pushed to their limit, Lin Muyu felt that he had struck a true bottleneck. Crossing it would be extremely difficult. If he did, the realm he stepped into would be beyond anything he could imagine. "I thought that once my body and soul increased 1,000-fold, Once I evolved a million Tao hard worlds and perfected the Tao of formations, that would be the step beyond a Hongmeng Supreme. Now it seems that is still not it. The true next step is to shatter this limit. That is the real path I must walk. And it feels very, very hard. He gazed at the Divine Lord's hall, half hidden in the clouds, light flashing in his eyes. How strange. Why do I feel like I have been here before? Especially that symbol on the hall, it gives me a powerful sense of déjà vu. A Jew floated at his side, curious. What are you looking at? The symbol on the Divine Lord's hall, he replied. It is not ordinary. Oh, that, she said, that is the Nine Heavens realm sigil, created by the Divine Lord. I remember he said that this symbol gathers. Her expression tightened, as though she was trying to recall something. Lin Moyu realized that another portion of her memory might have been sealed. Suddenly, a Jew clapped her hands. I remember. The Divine Lord said the Nine Heavens realm formation gathers all. All what? Lin Moyu asked, interested. What does all mean? I do not know, a Jew answered, shaking her head. He did not explain. It does not matter, Lin Moyu said. I am sure I will know soon. He was not far from the Divine Lord's hall now. Half a day's walk, and he would arrive. The Hongmeng gem sat on his shoulder, also staring at the hall. How odd, it murmured. I feel like I have been here before. You certainly have, Lin Moyu said. Your memories are sealed, that is all. Probably, the gem agreed. It seems I did have some connection with the Divine Lord. Perhaps this time, your seal can be undone, Lin Moyu said. Not only the gem's seal, but a Jew's as well. The greatest mystery was about to be laid bare. At last, he finished the Divine Road and came before the Divine Lord's hall. It was far grander than any of the previous 99 halls, its splendor and magnificence beyond words. He could not find a suitable term to describe it. He could only tell that the hall itself was an incredibly powerful treasure. High above, the Nine Heavens realm sigil shed radiance. Within that light, countless starry points flickered, each like a complete heaven and earth, evolving and collapsing in an instant as entire worlds were created and destroyed within moments. Seated on the ninth heaven, watching all beneath the sky with a smile. A clear voice rang out from within the hall. The instant it sounded, the catastrophic scepter let out a hum and flew up on its own, hovering mid-air. The Hongmeng gem released a startled cry, then dove back into the scepter and fell into instant sleep. So sleepy, a Jew yawned, collapsing onto the floor and starting to snore. Lin Moyu did not sense any force at all. With that voice, all that seemed to appear was a single strand of intent. Yet that alone was enough to affect the scepter, the gem, and a Jew so profoundly. The terror of Nine Heavens' Divine Lord was evident, far beyond anything Lin Moyu had imagined. This power transcended body, soul, and Tao heart. It was another level entirely. Lin Moyu bowed toward the hall. Junior Lin Moyu greets Nine Heavens' Divine Lord. You finally came back, the voice in the Divine Lord's hall replied. Lin Moyu's heart gave a jolt. Those few words carried an unusual meaning. Previously, a Jew had said, you finally came. The primordial savage king had said the same. That implied they knew someone would eventually arrive, but that person might not necessarily be him. Someone would come, that was all that had been certain. That information almost certainly came from Nine Heavens' Divine Lord. At the time, he had judged it that way. But now the Divine Lord had said, you finally came back. Just one extra word, but an entirely different implication. He had not said, you came. He had said, you came back. That meant Lin Moyu had once been here before and left and was only now returning. Before Lin Moyu could respond, the Divine Lord's voice sounded again. Come in. The Divine Lord's hall exploded in multicolored radiance that gathered into a shining avenue, as though personally welcoming Lin Moyu. Since he had come this far, there was no point in hesitating. He stepped onto the luminous path and entered the hall. Inside, it was just as splendid and exquisite as it had appeared from outside. The walls were covered in intricate carvings. They were not merely lifelike. When he looked at them, they seemed alive, and when he looked away, they became dead stone once more. The ceiling was like open void. He could see the Nine Heavens realm sigil above, and within it endless worlds rising and falling. A strange feeling rose within him. It was as if the Divine Lord's hall contained infinite worlds, and everything he had ever seen or experienced could be traced back to some hint found here. Most striking of all was the rising sense of familiarity. Could it be that I really have been here before? His mind was a whirlwind of questions as he scanned the hall. He saw no trace of Nine Heavens' Divine Lord. At the very center stood a throne suspended in mid-air, but it was empty. The throne radiated an ancient, vast aura. It was clear that it had gone a long time without being occupied. This was the Divine Lord's Hall, 9 Heavens' Divine Lord's residence and palace. This was his throne, yet no one sat on it. The 9 Heavens realm sigil poured down runes of fused light, and within that glow a figure appeared. The silhouette was blurred, impossible to see clearly, yet the feeling of familiarity in Lin Muo's heart flared again. He felt he knew this person and knew him well. Even so, he could only assume that the figure was 9 Heavens' Divine Lord. The figure gradually solidified, revealing a face that was both strange and familiar, as though seen before yet not truly recognized. Expressionless, he simply gazed calmly at Lin Muo and spoke slowly. "Do you feel it is strange as though you have seen me, yet cannot remember?" "Yes," Lin Muo replied. "Senior is correct. Please enlighten me." "There is no rush," the figure said. "You will have your answer soon enough. But first, you must see some things." A beam of radiance surged from the ceiling. In an instant, the entire Divine Lord's Hall vanished. Lin Muo's vision blurred, and he realized he was standing in open void. In that moment, he could not tell how far he had been moved. All he knew was that he had left the hall behind. The rules here were strange. It was not the forbidden zone of life, nor the barrier of heaven and earth. It was someplace he had never visited before. And yet the laws of this place felt familiar. A flicker of shock stirred in his heart, and 3/10 unsure, he blurted, "Is this a Dao hard world?" No answer came. He did not press the question and continued to observe. The void still shifted around him. Soon, the world changed a second time. This time it was not a mere spatial shift, but true transformation of heaven and earth, as though time itself were flowing backward. This is definitely a Dao hard world. He was now certain he stood inside 9 Heavens' Divine Lord's Dao hard world. Only within such a world could these scenes be so easily woven. Reversing time was not impossible, but it could not ordinarily be done so quietly and effortlessly. When the changes finally stilled, Lin Muo found himself in a space woven entirely of purple mist. It was a strange realm, and the violet haze exuded a peculiar power. He felt he had seen something like it before, but could not recall where. "This purple mist," he murmured, "is somewhat similar to the Hongmeng heaven and earth." Chapter 4849, Ancient Origins. 9 Heavens' Divine Lord's phantom manifested beside Lin Muo. This space is called the Origin Realm. Origin Realm, Lin Muo's heart gave a tremor. Why does this place feel so familiar to me? The moment he heard those 3 words, it was as though some buried memory had been stirred. The memory seemed to come from the deepest instincts of his soul, or perhaps from some indescribable, boundless void. For a while, his thoughts grew slightly chaotic. The Divine Lord's voice continued. "This is the beginning of everything. The source and perhaps the end as well." As he spoke, a faint point of light flickered into existence within the violet mist. It brightened from dim to blindingly bright in half a breath, quickly becoming impossible to look at directly. The light exploded. The purple mist rolled and boiled in the blast, breaking into clumps large and small that all began to change, as if nurturing something within. Soon, countless beings were born from the mist. They came in every conceivable form: beasts, plants, spirits, and humans. Without exception, they were unimaginably powerful. They began fighting over the remaining violet mist, plunging into brutal slaughter. The mist was finite. They seized the unclaimed portion and, by killing each other, could devour their opponents, share as well. The carnage was unspeakably intense. Everyone fought as though staking their life, and there seemed to be no end. Watching as an observer, Lin Muo muttered, "This is like raising Gu." No one answered him. The slaughter continued for a very long time before finally reaching its end. In the end, only 2 figures remained. Having slain enough rivals and devoured enough purple mist, both had become millions of times stronger than when they were born. Their strength was perfectly matched. Neither could gain an edge. They fought a great battle that lasted ages and still could not decide a winner. Neither could kill the other. Primordial Savage, 9 Heavens' Divine Lord. Lin Muo recognized them. One was the Primordial Savage, the ancestor of all such fiends. The other was 9 Heavens' Divine Lord. Once the stalemate became clear, they stopped their battle, but there was no reconciliation. Both began seeking ways to kill the other. The Primordial Savage employed some unknown method and began splitting off descendants. The rate of fission was terrifying, and in short order it possessed numberless offspring. Thus, the primordial savage became the savage ancestor, the progenitor of all primordial savage fiends. Though the descendants were not as powerful as the original, the ancestor could gather their power, growing even stronger. In this way, its strength would surpass that of the Divine Lord. But Nine Heaven's Divine Lord did not remain idle. With a wave of his hand, his Tao Heart light burned brilliantly. Within that light, world after world unfolded, and array after array appeared and vanished. Another war erupted. Both sides unleashed their full might, and the battle again deadlocked. One battle after another followed, without respite. During these lulls, Lin Muyu often saw the Divine Lord sigh. Whenever they paused, a faint pain would surface in his eyes. Lin Muyu felt a strange resonance in his own heart. He could sense that Nine Heaven's Divine Lord was grieving for the beings within his Tao Heart worlds. He used those worlds to weave his formations. With every battle, the worlds were damaged, and the living beings within suffered catastrophe, dying in droves. If the Tao Heart worlds lacked living beings, they could never reach their peak, and he could not contend with the savage ancestor. So he had no choice but to continually evolve stronger worlds, even as he watched them collapse and their life be extinguished. Gradually, his pain deepened. A hint of guilt seemed to flicker in him. This is going to give rise to a heart devil. Lin Muyu frowned. The Divine Lord's Tao Heart was perfect. No external blow could shake it, so in theory he should never have developed a heart devil. And yet here it was a heart devil born from within the Tao Heart itself, from the Divine Lord's own being. A heart devil had to be resolved, and the longer it lingered, the worse it would become. Lin Muyu was sure that Nine Heaven's Divine Lord had noticed his own problem and would inevitably take action. Sure enough, the Divine Lord's gaze hardened, filled with killing intent. Not only killing intent, but ruthless resolve. With someone like him, once he chose to be ruthless, it was never confined to his enemies, he could be just as ruthless to himself. He charged the savage ancestor in a frenzy, fighting as though throwing his life away. This battle was entirely different from the ones before. The Divine Lord no longer defended, only attacked, holding nothing back, like a man seeking mutual destruction. The savage ancestor was forced onto the defensive, quickly falling behind. Tao Heart worlds rose and fell throughout the origin realm, arrays crisscrossed the heavens. Countless primordial savages were cut down, more than half were slaughtered. Nine Heaven's Divine Lord no longer cared about the cost. Previously, he had grieved for the innumerable lives in his worlds, but this time he seemed to have made his decision. One of them had to die. Throwing himself into death to find new life. How ruthless. If the guess is right, he intends to use this slaughter to cut away his heart devil. From the outside, Lin Muyu could see it clearly. The only part he did not understand was this: even with such a formation, killing the savage ancestor outright would be extremely hard. Let alone killing it would not be easy even to seal him. Their strength is too close. Neither can easily deal with the other. What will Nine Heaven's Divine Lord do? The Divine Lord expanded his array to cover the entire origin realm and suddenly roared. 1,000,000 Tao Heart worlds erupted into flames. Together with them, his Tao Heart, his soul, and his body all began to burn. Sacrifice my body, sacrifice my soul, sacrifice my Tao Heart, sacrifice the billions of lives in my worlds. Cut. He sacrificed everything: his body, his soul, his Tao Heart, and the countless beings within his worlds. With that sacrifice, he gained the power needed to strike down the savage ancestor. The resulting attack nearly shattered the origin realm itself. Using all that he was, he forced the primordial savage to fall. You cannot kill me. You will regret this. You cannot kill me. You will regret this. The savage ancestor's screams echoed through the origin realm, reverberating for 1,000,000 years. Time washes away all things. At last, the screams faded. With both of them dead, the violet mist reappeared. Everything they had was born from the origin realm and now returned to it. From whence it came, to that it returned. But Lin Muyu knew this was not the end. Otherwise, there would be no Nine Heaven's Divine Lord standing here now. After who knew how many ages, a spark of light flared within the mist. A tiny soul pierced through space and time, arriving abruptly. It began to absorb the purple mist and quickly grew stronger. Realization struck Lin Muyu. So that is how it is. He understood. This was Nine Heaven's Divine Lord, the reborn wisp of his soul. More precisely, this was the Divine Lord's heart devil. After his heart devil had formed, he had cut it away, sealed it, and merged a sliver of his conscious soul into it, sending both into another timeline. Then he sacrificed everything and perished with the savage ancestor, while that sliver of consciousness survived alongside the heart devil in a different time. After countless ages, that fragment of soul returned together with the heart devil to the normal flow of time and once more stepped into the origin realm. Chapter 4850, Final Chapter End. With the seal undone, 9 Heaven's Divine Lord's remaining soul awareness and his heart devil grew strong together. However, they were not the only ones to return, the savage ancestor came back as well. Before his death, the savage ancestor had seen through the Divine Lord's plan. He chased along the river of time, located that alternate timeline in which the fragment of soul existed, and left his own soul imprint upon it. Now, as the Divine Lord and his heart devil returned, the savage ancestor returned along with them. Once 9 Heaven's Divine Lord fully recovered, the savage ancestor would also be resurrected. If nothing changed, another endless war would follow. History would repeat itself, and all the previous sacrifices would be wasted. But 9 Heaven's Divine Lord had his own calculations. His sliver of soul recovered the fastest. After countless ages, he completely restored himself and once more stood at the peak. At that time, whether heart devil or savage ancestor, both were far weaker than he. In this new confrontation, the Divine Lord stood unassailable. Yet on this return, Divine Lord, heart devil, and savage ancestor were tightly bound, almost inseparable. To cut them apart would be like mutilating himself. Unless he no longer cared to live, he could not truly annihilate them. The savage ancestor began splitting again, breeding descendants nurturing another legion of primordial savage fiends so he could crawl back to his peak. The heart devil likewise persisted, constantly gnawing at the Divine Lord. This time, Lin Moyu thought, how will you choose? He watched as ruthless resolve once again surfaced in 9 Heaven's Divine Lord's eyes. He had made his decision. A clear voice rang throughout the origin realm. Million Tao heart worlds, birthing billions of lives, I sacrifice them. The origin realm shall fall, the heavens and earth arise. With the sacrifice of billions of lives, the great wheel of reincarnation is forged. My soul shall be split into 3. One part shall be the devil, gathering all my evil thoughts. One part shall be the God, establishing the 9 Heavens Divine Hall as Divine Lord, eternally suppressing evil. One part shall be the heart, bearing my Tao heart, entering the great wheel to await the day of return. My body shall be split into 2. One part shall be power, gathering the might of heaven and earth and the faith of all beings, becoming the supreme authority with which to strike the savage ancestor. One part shall be protection, entering reincarnation with my heart to await the day of return. For the second time, 9 Heaven's Divine Lord sacrificed everything. But this time, the method was different. He would completely destroy the savage ancestor and sever his heart devil through a far more complex and dangerous plan. Using his Tao heart worlds as the foundation, he shattered the origin realm and scattered the violet mist. He once again offered up the billions of lives within those worlds, using the boundless power and vitality of the heavens and earth to create a true great reincarnation. The origin realm collapsed, and the cycle of heavens began, the embryonic form of the Great Destruction era. He tore out his heart devil and merged all his evil thoughts into it. At the same time, he used another fragment of his soul to build the 9 Heavens Divine Hall, anchoring his heart devil. Finally, he fused his last Tao heart with a remnant of soul and entered the great reincarnation, to experience endless rebirth and await the day he would return. It was an extraordinarily risky move. If he failed, he might sink into reincarnation forever, never to re-emerge. That was what he did with his Tao and his soul. With his flesh, he did something else. He sacrificed his body as well, merging all remaining strength with the power of the heavens and earth, condensing it into the supreme authority, the catastrophic scepter. The scepter held all authority, gathered all power, soul, elements, balance, yin and yang, heaven and earth, and even the great reincarnation itself all fell under its control. At the moment the catastrophic scepter was formed, it smashed down upon the savage ancestor. The screams of the savage ancestor echoed once more, but this time, there was no origin realm to contain them. Killing him was no simple matter. In the process of destroying the savage ancestor, the catastrophic scepter was damaged as well, its power was sealed, and it fell into the currents of time, vanishing. The last traces of power from 9 Heavens Divine Lord's body carried his protective will into reincarnation alongside his heart. The savage ancestor fell, but the primordial savage fiends he had birthed were not all annihilated. The Divine Lord did not slaughter them completely. Instead, he imprisoned, sealed, and repurposed them. All of this was done in preparation for his eventual return. Lin Muyu watched it all and finally understood everything. The scene burst apart, and he found himself once more in the Divine Lord's hall. A speck of light formed from the void and sank into his brow. His body shuddered, and a vast aura surged skyward. So that is how it is. A long sigh drifted through the hall. His gaze deepened, and his aura climbed ever higher, spreading from the hall out beyond the barrier of heaven and earth, crossing endless void and sweeping across the forbidden zone of life. Deep within the forbidden zone, the Divine Servant Hall appeared. All the Divine Servants seemed to feel something and knelt as one. "Welcome, Divine Lord." The hall's spirit also trembled and bowed only to disintegrate silently into dust with the next breath. Without explanation, with a single thought, Lin Muyu erased the hall's tool spirit. Standing in the Divine Lord's hall, he glanced at the origin sigil hanging in the air, and his voice spread slowly through the realms. "I was born in the origin realm, forged by primordial violet mist. I sacrificed myself, shattered the origin realm, founded the primordial era, and within it built the wheel of heaven and earth, creating the great destruction era that which is called Hongmeng. I floated in reincarnation for billions of years and have finally returned today. Heart devil and evil thoughts be cut away." With a single thought, the Divine Lord's hall unleashed a world-shaking force into the origin sigil. The 99 divine halls vanished in an instant, merging into one. Only the Divine Lord's hall remained. A shaft of radiance fell from above. The black shadow that had erected false halls to misdirect Lin Muyu was instantly turned to dust within that light. The system turned into a streak of light and flew into the hall, merging with Lin Muyu. The system had always been part of his body, entering reincarnation with him and now returning. His aura grew even stronger, surpassing every former limit as he stepped toward a higher realm. The origin sigil descended in the light and returned to him, and his aura rose again, suppressing all 9 heavens. "Only you are left." Lin Muyu reached out his hand. The catastrophic scepter flew back into his grasp. Across all his lifetimes, he had obtained it several times, but due to the seal upon himself, each attempt had ended in failure for various reasons. Because of that seal, the scepter had forgotten those cycles. Now, fully whole, it blazed as endless power of the heavens and earth converged upon it, and the Hongmeng gold shone brilliantly. The Hongmeng gem shouted in excitement, "I understand now. I understand everything." "Then it is time to work," Lin Muyu said with a smile. The gem answered. It waved a tiny hand. "At my command back." The void thundered. The entire barrier of life lit up, illuminating the forbidden zone. Countless worlds bathed in its glow. Those realms which the little tree had not yet reclaimed burst into life again and restarted their cycles. The power of worlds surged out, crossing the void to merge into Lin Muyu and raise his strength another step. Body and soul became fully one. Dao Heart radiance burst forth, evolving a million Dao Heart worlds. Those million worlds in the heavens of the great reincarnation shone upon each other, and that radiance covered all of Hongmeng. In that instant, the number of worlds he commanded completely surpassed 1,000,000. Boom! The void shuddered. The Dao Heart worlds dispersed and became a true heaven and earth. Under the divine light, the remaining primordial savage fiends were all slaughtered. They should have died long ago. Had Lin Muyu not been within the wheel of reincarnation, they would have had no purpose. They had existed only to temper him and should have perished alongside the savage ancestor. His aura had reached its ultimate peak. Only a final step remained before a completely new realm. Dao Heart, body, and soul were all perfect. He glanced toward a corner of the Divine Lord's hall. "It is time for you to go as well." There, a single imprint remained, the last soul brand of the savage ancestor, which 9 heavens Divine Lord had left behind and suppressed for endless years. Now it would serve as Lin Muyu's final stepping stone. A scream tore through the hall. The last fragment of the savage ancestor's soul was erased. A wisp of primordial violet mist flew out and settled into Lin Muyu's hand. 9 heavens Divine Lord had calculated everything, sacrificing himself twice in the most ruthless way to finally complete what he had set out to do. The birth of a heart devil had been real, and using that heart devil had also been real. He had been merciless to his enemies and even more merciless to himself. He had twice sacrificed 1,000,000 worlds and uncounted lives to found a great reincarnation and send himself into that cycle reborn. At last, it is all over. As the origin realm fully collapsed, the final wisp of primordial violet mist was consumed, becoming Lin Muyu's last aid. The barrier shattered, and he stepped fully into an entirely new realm. Void without boundary, worlds without number. Living beings without end. All are under me. I am the Divine Lord, and I am the catastrophe, ruling life and death and holding the wheel of reincarnation. His voice echoed across all worlds. All of Lin Moyu's friends and loved ones shone with divine light, and their realms rose sharply until they, too, became eternally undying. The artifact's realm appeared, and billions of undying spirit soldiers flew out into the void. They had once been the powerhouses of the Divine Lord's million worlds. When he sacrificed those worlds, he had gathered them, carried them into reincarnation, and turned them into his methods and spells. Now, it was time for them to return and live once more. The Breaking Sky Crystal flew forth, and within it Breaking Sky Emperor and Seeking Truth True Lord bowed before Lin Moyu. We greet the Divine Lord. He flicked 2 rays of light, both had their souls renewed and bodies remade, restored in an instant to their peak. After that was done, Lin Moyu awoke a Jew and lifted all the seals on her memory. As the spirit of the hall, she understood everything at once. Her mission was complete. From now on, you are free, Lin Moyu said. Do whatever you wish. Thank you, Master. A Jew cheered, her voice filled with joy. Lin Moyu chuckled softly and looked into the void. Wherever his gaze fell, nothing remained hidden. The heavens were still evolving. Once past 1,000,000, there no longer seemed to be any limit. In time, the worlds would become endless. The more worlds there were, the more living beings, and the greater his power would be without end. His eyes turned toward the word God, heaven and earth. There, he saw his wife and children, and warmth softened his gaze. Lifetime after lifetime, always alone. Now that there is a family and children, it is time to live differently. The end. It's a sad day and a good day. Catastrophic Necromancer is finally over. Honestly, this is something against the gods and martial god Asura should learn from. I've been reading those for over 10 years now, with no end in sight. I originally started translating this novel because I genuinely hated the existing translations. I used webnovel mostly as a convenience tool to read on the go. I began this project about 2 years ago, so yes, it's been a long while, and it's honestly kind of hard to stomach that it's over. Along the way, I loved seeing other people pick this story up with me. Even though I didn't really participate in discussions, I read all your theories and ideas. Some of you were spot on, and others had ideas that would have been really interesting if applied. It's been a fun ride. I'm open to suggestions for my next translation project, so don't be shy. If I find something interesting, I'll do it. To my paid subscribers, thank you so much for supporting me. I know for some of you it wasn't a small amount, and your help meant a lot during a tough time in my life. I truly appreciate it. I've also set up a new Ko-Fi page, and hopefully it stays up. Right finger web links. Anyone would like to donate, you're more than welcome. Overall, thank you for accompanying me on this journey. FYI, for my readers on Webnovel, I will release 3 chapters a day till completion. Toki out. Chapter 4851, complete. Catastrophic Necromancer has finally come to an end. It's been a great 2-year journey. Thank you to everyone who stuck with it and read all the way to the end. It was a fun ride. I'm open to suggestions for my next translation project, so don't be shy. If something catches my interest, I'll take it on. To my paid subscribers, thank you so much for your support. I know that for some of you it wasn't a small amount, and your help meant a lot to me during a difficult period in my life. I truly appreciate it. Overall, thank you for accompanying me on this journey.